Okay, I wanted to touch on why they want to replace us, or at least my opinion on why they want to replace us on the research that I've done. Our extinction won't occur because of mass killings, war, but it will be encouraged through propaganda and government policies of mass immigration. Against our will, empty claims of equality and diversity, and somehow this inevitable race-mixing future that they keep jamming down our throats. Many of these elites are white, but they don't see themselves as such. They are internationalists. They're globalists. They are not driven by ethnic alliance, any allegiance or loyalty to their own race. They only having allegiance to your own race is being human. Exactly.
I just want to put that in there. Sorry.
No, it's great because everybody else does, and then when we do it, there's a problem.
It's a human trait.
But
period. It's been there. It's a human trait. You feel guilty for having a human trait. Think about that for a second. You feel guilty for having a human trait. Go ahead. Sorry.
Because they want to go against human nature itself. They want to make us robots. Going back to what I was saying, like these elites, they only care about themselves, their desire to gain more power and control. And these globalists hate individual nations and differences, which if you look at Europeans, were similar, but at each country, they're very distinct. They may be Christian, and they may be white, but they have their own culture, they have their own language, they have their own beliefs. These globalists, they hate this. What they want is global homogeny. Now, my opinion on why they want to replace us is that we Caucasians, we white people, are the number one defense against globalism. Would you not agree?
We're the only ones standing in their way.
And that's why they hate us. Nationalism is rising all over the Western world due to this hateful, vindictive, globalist agenda. We whites, we fight for freedom of speech, for liberty, for prosperity, and limited government, our conservative values. We Westerners invented these concepts.
Absolutely.
Globalists, they want dependent, docile, and compliant populations that are easy to control. Just like Chris said, they want them to be dependent upon them.
Exactly.
That is not how we in the West govern ourselves. We Caucasians created the greatest military systems on the face of the earth. White men set up colonies all over the world, building, not tearing down. What Chris touched on earlier, all the things that we have invented that we should be proud of. Depending on ourselves and not a government, we are self-sufficient. We are extremely resourceful and inventive. We completely dominate as a small minority if needs be. Like we mentioned earlier, the British Empire, the sun never set on the British Empire. A little island ruled the world. What I love about being a Caucasian, about being a white man, and Chris and I do this all the time, is we constantly question and we research and we challenge, we philosophize. We, as white people, we're naturally kind and giving. We're altruistic, which we talked about in our last podcast. But as of late, it has become our downfall. We are very distinct in our need for individualism.
So that's Eric's view on why they're trying to replace us. And here's what I'm reading. I'm reading this book. It's a controversial book called "Practical Idealism: The Kalergi Plan to Destroy European Peoples," and I think it's made by Cohenhove/Kalergi. Okay. Anyway, I want to read you this. It's really deep. It says, I'm going to quote from the book. It says, what makes us different from the rest of the planet, basically, is our idealism. The white man's idealism, okay? We are willing to fight and suffer for our ideals. Now, if you look at all of European history and American history, we've always fought and suffered for our ideals.
Yeah, that's what we're doing right now.
Yeah, So while lesser cultures and people are not willing to fight for ideals, because they don't have any. All they follow is simply pleasure and pain. Practical idealism is heroism. Practical materialism is I can't say that one. I can't say that one. Eudemism. I can't say it. Sorry, this one I can't say. Anyway, those who believe in ideals have no reason to act ideally. or to fight and suffer for ideals, because they know and acknowledge only one value, pleasure, and only one evil, pain. Let me read that to you again. Those who do not believe in ideals have no reason to act ideally.
Makes sense.
Or to fight and suffer for ideals, because they know and acknowledge only one value, pleasure, and only one single pain. All they understand is pleasure and pain. That's all they understand.
Like animalism.
Basically, yes. Heroism necessitates faith and commitment to the ideal, the conviction that there are higher values than pleasure and greater evil than pain. Period. That's heroism. That is so valuable. This quote is so valuable. It's saying that we as white people are extremely idealistic, and we're willing to suffer for our ideals. So you see, like lower people, lower cultures, all they have is just pleasure and pain. That's all they care about. They have no sense of idealism. So the globalists want to flood us with people that have no idealism, that are just complacent and they're dependent. See, when you're self-sufficient and when you are self-sufficient, you have high idealism.
Yeah.
So what they're trying to do is they're trying to destroy idealism, and they're trying to make everybody complacent. So they don't want white people. They want to replace us because they don't like the fact that we're ideal and we're willing to fight and suffer for our ideals.
Right.
They don't want that.
Right.
And so that's what I want to. That's why I believe they're trying to replace us. Okay. And not only that, we create. We're not freeloaders. We as of course there's 43% of white people on welfare. Don't get me wrong. So there is a problem there. Okay, but historically we are not freeloaders. We are ones that we create, and we don't just consume. We create. We create the greatest things in the world. So we create, and we want people to also want to create. But the globalists are trying to flood us with these third world immigrants that do nothing for the most part than just consume and be dependent. And we can never. They're trying to destroy idealism. That's what they are most threatened by our idealism, and they're trying to drain us out to destroy our idealism. That's what I believe.
I would totally agree with that.
So that's why I believe they're trying to do that. Do you have anything else to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, like touching on what we just did, I think that not only are they coming after our ideals and our culture, they want to. I think what they're really doing is I kind of question. They're calling it the Great Replacement. Do they really want to genocide us? We've made points that they do, but at the same time, we could look at it that they want to make. We've talked about this earlier about making the Western world a third world cesspool. What they want to do is they want to say overtake us demographically. They want us to turn our attention against these immigrants and completely ignore these globalists that are setting the third world upon our countries to destroy. They're turning our altruism, our compassion, our willingness to help others against us. This is a unique trait that has become, as I mentioned earlier, our ultimate weakness. They want to destroy us because we're their competition, and they want their competition out of the way. If there's anything that will stop them, it's the Western world, us white people.
Yes, because we have idealism. And if you look at a lot of other people, they don't have the sense of idealism.
So it really does make sense that they're directly coming after us, because if they come after us and we fall, no one else stands in their way. Would you agree?
Who else was going to stand in their way?
Nobody. That's my point.
Now listen to this. Now I'm going to prove to you that the left knows exactly what they're doing. Okay, listen to this. I'm sorry. According to this guy named, what's his name? The father of critical race theory. His last name is Bell. What's his name? Mr. Bell. Let's just call him Mr. Bell. Okay?
Mr. Bell.
That's his name, right? That's his last
Sure.
name. But anyway, this is what he said. He says in his book Race, Racism and American Law, which is basically he's the father of critical race theory. He says this: instruments of the state are merely the reflections of the political and economic ideology of the dominant group, unquote. Mm-hmm. So if Democrats bring in third world immigration in and at massive levels, and white people become the minority, the entire political system will change, and America will be no more. If the third world becomes the majority in America, America will turn into a third world country. So that's the quote that I have from him, but that was just my commentary after that. So the fact is that he said that. They know exactly what they're doing. So if they want to change the demographics of America by lessening white people and bringing in more immigrants, they're going to change the entire political and economic structure of the country, because according to Mr. Bell, the political the majority are the ones that bring the political and economic.
Well, of course,
things in
that
the
makes complete sense. We can't restore our civilization with somebody else's children.
We can't. No.
It has to be our children, not their children.
Exactly.
And you could say that that's racist all you want, but in reality, it's the truth.
And the Israelis know this very well. For example, the Palestinians are trying to do everything they can to destroy Israel, and Israel knows that they're trying to destroy it. They say, "Oh, well, you guys are discriminating against us. You need to make us equal citizens." You know, the Palestinians and the Israelis. The Israelis know that they fought for a Jewish state. They know that if the Palestinian population becomes more than the Jewish population, the Jewish state is no more.
Of course.
So they're not going to allow their state to go down because it's a Jewish state. They're trying to preserve their state. They're trying to preserve their culture. They're trying to preserve their heritage. So what is the problem if we, as white people, want to preserve our culture and heritage? It's not you call us white supremacy because we want to protect our culture and our heritage. We're considered white supremacists. Well, when anybody else does it, it's perfectly fine.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Yeah, it's ridiculous because the way that I learned it years ago when I was studying was if everyone was capable of creating a Western world, everybody would have one. If you come into a white nation and make it African or you make it Arab or if you make it Asian, it is no longer Western because if they were capable of making a Western society, they would have
made one. They would have
already done it, and they can't do it. So they think, and this is what I love about these minorities that you'll hear on CSNBC or CNN, like black people. You take white people out, black people think that they're just going to come in and they're just going to make everything better.
Now, what happened in Zimbabwe? What happened? It's perfect. What happened in Zimbabwe? What happened in Zimbabwe is that they had this black nationalist movement. So first of all, the white people
killing all the white farmers.
Yeah. So the white farmers were the backbone of the society.
The economy.
The economy, exactly. So this black nationalist movement came about. Well, they say white people are oppressors and all this stuff. So they literally kicked out all the white farmers. And they said they took it over, and what happened is that the country completely tanked after that. They got to a point where it got so bad that they invited the white farmers back.
Yeah.
Because they couldn't survive as a country.
Yeah.
And it is what it is. That is a fact. Look it up for yourself.
Well, let's be real. Chris and I are in Michigan, and if you look at like Detroit is a black city, and they have a white mayor.
They do right now? I didn't even pay attention.
Yeah, isn't it Mike Duggan?
Yeah, I guess they do.
Yeah, there you go. A Democrat, but a white guy that they need to... I mean, if it were up to them, I'm sure they would take Kwame right back, but they don't learn their lessons.
It is what it is. So, the fact is the fact. But anything else you want to add?
No, this
So one thing I want to do is I want to add a little bit of solutions, and I only have 5. Because we like to end with some solutions because we want to talk about problems, but we also want to give solutions. So one thing I would say is to stop bringing in third world immigrants into the country. Stop. It's not helping us in any certain way. We want to limit third world immigrants as much as possible. It's not racist. We don't want America to turn into the third world. Period.
Yeah, I said that earlier. If you bring in the third world, what you're going to get is the third world.
And we want to stop bringing in immigrants that are economic invaders. So one thing that somebody brought up on our page was that for an immigrant to come here, they have to have a sponsor. And if the sponsor is financially responsible for that immigrant, the sponsor.
I like that.
Okay. 2,
that's very responsible is what it is.
So 3, we want to stop economic invaders. So people that come here just for economic reasons, no other than that, we want to stop that. We want to stop generational welfare. We need to stop welfare fraud and generational welfare. It is hurting our country substantially. We do not want a giant welfare state here. And the last thing I want to say is we want to give incentives for marriage and children. We want to give people incentive to get married and have children. Because if we want Americans to have children, so we want to have a country in the future and not just be replaced by a third world population.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, if I were going to bring a solution to it, I would want to point out exactly what Chris was saying, that be proud that you're white. I'm going to stress that over and over and over again. And being proud that you're white does not make you a racist.
It doesn't.
To believe that, and it's not even a belief, to accept that the Western world is ours. It is not for anybody else. It is ours. And for us to have our own things is not racist. It's not bigoted in any way. For us to take from other people would be bigoted and racist, but yet they do it to us us and it's somehow okay because of some past atrocities that they like to throw in our face that may or not be real, but it doesn't matter anymore because it's behind us. But what my biggest thing taken away from what Chris and I are talking about tonight is we have to realize, we have to come to this realization that these globalists are at war with us. We need to recognize that they're not at war with us tomorrow or in a week from now. They're at war with us right now, and we have to acknowledge that. We need to fight back.
If we, I mean, in a lawful war, you know what I'm saying? Just don't do violence.
That's not what I'm saying at all. But I'm basically saying come to the realization, because I'm not saying war, that they're not shooting guns at us. What they're doing is they're coming at us with critical race theory, with white guilt, with white privilege, that everything that we white people... I read an article just recently about how they were saying that classical music is racist.
Anything is racist that's white.
Anything that's white is racist. Well, we need to throw that nonsense out. This is what I mean by realizing that they're at war with us, accepting it, and fighting back. Because how we fight back is realizing that they're doing it and saying, "To hell with you."
Now, one of our followers on our page, Michael Phillips, said something great, and I shared it with Eric earlier this day, and I just want to end with it because it's so great. This hits it right on the point. Thank you, Michael Phillips, for this. I'm going to read your quote. It says, this is what he said. He said, "Deconstructing whiteness is a racist left-wing code for destroying the culture that made America successful and great in order to drag it down to a lower level to make everyone equal," which is Marxism.
That hits
it right on the center.
That's all in a nutshell is what that is.
So anytime they're talking about destroying whiteness, they're destroying what makes our country great.
Well put,
Period.
Michael. And I love that he says that, dragging it down. And I've said this before in a paper that I wrote many years ago about this is what the left does, is it has to drag everything down to their level because they're beneath us and they know it. So they're punching up, which is fine, but that's what they're doing, is trying to tear everything down to their level, and he says it perfectly. So I believe, stay strong on your idealism. Our idealism, the fact that we're willing to suffer for our idealism and to do the right thing, that's what differentiates us from these normal people that have no idealism. It's our idealism that differentiates us, so always hold fast onto our idealism. That's the biggest thing. The fact that we're willing to suffer for our ideals is what makes us heroes. Yeah, absolutely.
So that's what we have to say today, and I appreciate you guys listening. I'm sure the left is going to hate this one, but it needs to be said.
Well, we carry that with a badge of honor.
It's a badge of honor. I know that the left will try to maybe even cancel us out over. They hate the Great Replacement theory because that shooting that just happened in was it Texas? That guy, that white person that went into that black business that shot a bunch of people.
No, that was Buffalo. That was a grocery store.
Yeah,
and he also said that he accepted it, but he was a radical leftist.
He was a Marxist too at one. He said he was a Marxist. Now, like I said, just to end on that, I do not. I think what he did was, if that was really real, if that actually it was not staged, which we never know.
Well, we're starting to see hints that the guy in Buffalo and then the guy that shot up the school in Texas, that there is a correlation between them. Not to get into this conspiracy theory or digress, but
like I said, I'm against all forms of going out there doing violence like that. I'm against that, so don't think that I'm like that.
No.
I'm not calling for that, whatever. So don't use the Great Replacement theory to attack innocent people.
What you're going to do is hinder our movement by doing this. This is something that Chris and I have talked about in private, but the way that we succeed is policies, changing policies, changing ideas. Chris and I are intellectuals. We're not violent men at all, and we're not going to condone violence whatsoever.
Now, like I said, I can. If you come to me with violence, I can be violent. That's
different. Self-defense is completely different.
Yeah, I can be. So I'm not a government actor, so therefore I'm not trying to call for violence, but I do believe in self-defense. And don't
let anybody attack you or hurt you.
Absolutely
That's not what we're saying.
But what I'm saying is that our goal is to change the popular will and to get our movement to mainstream politics. That's our goal. And the left hates that the most. The left wants us to be violent so they can label us and put us in jail and silence us. So don't become violent. But like I said, always protect yourself no matter what. But let's get our movement into mainstream politics. That's where my goal is.
Well, our movement. is basically not his truth and her truth and their truth. It's the truth.
It's the truth. We just want to bring a sense of reality.
In what we want to do is we want to talk about things that are uncomfortable because, like Chris mentioned earlier, the truth is an ugly, ugly thing, and we need to make the truth mainstream.
Yeah, and there's one quote that I want to, just before I go, if I can find it really quick, I want to talk about this quote because it's really good, and this might be one of the best endings for an ending. Let's see if I can find it really quick. Bear with me. Okay, here it is. I'm going to end with this quote, and so listen to this. And I got 360 likes and 130 shares. Ooh. So it says, I quote this: "If something is wrong, and you are too afraid to talk about it because something might happen to you, or they might label you, is precisely what they're using to take advantage of you."
Yes.
Let me read it one more time. If something is wrong and you're too afraid to talk about it because something might happen to you or they might label you, is precisely what they're using to take advantage of you. The fact is that you're too afraid to talk about the great replacement theory is precisely what they're using against us.
Yep. Well, we brought this up at the very beginning of the podcast. If you're saying something and they don't want you to say it, that's exactly why you should be saying it in the first place.
You should fight that. If you're going to be called something, or if something's going to happen to me, if I say this, that's precisely what you need to say.
If they pitch a bitch, you're on the right path.
Yeah, and if they try to censor you, most of the time you just hit bullseye.
Yep.
Anyway, so thank you for listening, guys, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.